Hello, this is your host, Takal Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the TechoSpace podcast series. So, in this podcast episode, the TechoSpace explores a new, let's say, the most crucial part of the IT space, that is IT service delivery. So, welcoming a very special guest, we are honored to welcome Mr. Paul Brandvold, who happens to be Manager International Customer Operations of Cegal Company. Now, Paul is based out uh, of Stavanger, Norway. Now, giving a hindsight about what Cegal Company is an a firm that's completely into the IT services and IT services, IT consulting and IT services, whose main objective is to turn complex IT into digital success stories. I mean, this motto really rings a bell with me. So that's a complete creativity at its peak, I would say for sure. So, Paul, welcome to the to this podcast initiative of mine. So, how are you doing? And how are the things in Norway during the Easter time? So, what else good? What all great things that you had during this entire Easter time?
Well, thanks for having me. That was a very good long introduction. Yeah, well, in Norway, it's pretty quiet during Easter. There's a lot of people who, if they're lucky enough to have a cabin, they go in the cabin and they tend to maybe go skiing. But this year, Easter came quite late compared to most years. So in many locations, there were no snow. So in my case, I actually just stayed at home and spent time with my family.
Amazing. That's the best way of enjoying a vacation. Family having a good time with the family, and this time what I did. I mean, I went all the way to Phillip Islands, so it's a play. It's like a 1.5 or 2 hour drive from Melbourne. So we went to this beautiful getaway location that has amazing beaches, and it was just a very good one day. I think 1 day vacation probably for me.
Sounds really good.
That was a great time. Yeah. So Paul, at the stroke of this hour, like which is around 7:33 p.m. in Melbourne, let's kick off with the podcast episode.
Sure.
Yeah. So Paul, tell me look, so Paul, what is your role? Or I'll just keep going. Yeah. So Paul, can you tell me about your role as as an ITSM leader, having an experience of handling different international operations? Like, how does that go about?
Well, basically, right now I manage operations in the sense of, I guess, very easily said, keeping the lights on for the customers in terms of their IT solutions. And for people who are part of the support world, we are referred to as the third level or third line support as well. And that's what I do right now. We basically have customers all over the world. We're focused on power, energy companies. So it can be oil and gas, or it can be renewable energy, such as like water energy and things like that.
That's brilliant. So, Paul, why do you exactly mean that it's like a third line support company? Why do you say that that falls under that category?
Well, for that's specifically for my team or my department, where we would be the third line. So we do everything from first line to third line. So we can basically be the IT department for other companies. So some companies, they outsource everything to us, so we handle basically everything IT related to them. For some, they might just do partial, so they might just want certain areas to be managed by us.
All right. That's pretty interesting to know, Paul. So now, Paul, in detail, can you mention about the certifications that you have been accluded in the space of, let's say the ITIL for then the Prince Methodologies to and the Project Scrum Master, like a lot of list. I mean, a huge list,
Hmm.
I would say. So give me a hindsight about that as well, Paul.
Sure. So in 2012, I switched careers and I joined IT, so IT service management specifically. And back then, I had the mindset that formal credentials aren't important. It's all about experience. So from 2012 and 2019, I didn't take any certifications whatsoever, but I was learning a lot. I still think experience is by far the most important thing. However, I realized in 2019, I was thinking to myself, at that time, I was based in the Philippines, and I was thinking, how can I make my CV and my credentials be more impressive as well? So I started a certification journey doing that, because I was thinking, if I'm going to apply work back to my home country in Norway, then the better the CV looks, the bigger the chance I have. So I decided first to take, I took at the same time the professional Scrum Master, which is an agile, within agile methodology. I took the ITIL 4, which was just launched in 2019. I started with the foundation. And then I also took the Prince 2, which is more on project management. And I took that up to the highest level, which is Prince 2 practitioner. However, ITIL is my expertise or my area of expertise. So you could say from 2019 up until early this year, I've taken, if I don't, I might get the count wrong, but 7 or 8 exams within the ITIL to achieve the ITIL master. So you could say that it's been a long journey. And what I could say also about certifications for people who are interested in doing them, it's not just limited to ITIL though, is that credentials get you in the door, and then your experience actually gets you hired.
Exactly. That's pretty true. So when it comes to these certifications, Paul, like did your friends, pursue you to saying that, okay, Paul, you need to, try this, or was your friends were your family members involved in, influencing you, to pursue this kind of a route, or was it your own call?
It was definitely my own call. What I actually did was that I went on job ads and then I started scraping details. It's like for the jobs that I actually am interested in, what are the recurring things that pop up? And the recurring things was Scrum, project management, so either Prince 2 or PMP, right? And then ITILs, definitely ITIL within IT. So that's actually how it all started. And then when I took my first few certifications, I told my boss, by the way, I took these certifications just so you know, and I would like to kind of try to apply them in my job. And then he basically told me, why didn't you tell me? We could of course cover this, the cost. So basically, retroactively, I was able to reimburse the expenses as well.
Got it. Got it. And Paul, you just even mentioned one important point where you told you like where you just mentioned me out that you did like 7 to 8 attempts. So when you had always a faltering, let's say first attempt just went, second attempt went. So how was your mindset? Did you just have that zeal? Okay, no, I'm gonna crack this. I'm gonna crack this. Or were you a little bit dejected at first? Or
Or
how were you
you're
feeling?
thinking, no, maybe there was a misunderstanding. There were 7 or 8 levels or different certifications you need to take to
Okay,
achieve the
okay.
master. So I luckily never failed any of them.
Okay. Probably, yeah. Probably that's a thing we need to cover up well. So yeah, that's very good. So like 7 to 8 levels, why are there so many levels in that? Like does that start with a beginner level, intermediate level, expert level? How does the categorization go on for that?
Basically, you have the foundation level, which everyone needs to start on. So that's basically, as the name would suggest, it actually covers broadly everything, but nothing in real depth. So it's really more like the concepts you understand, like high level what things are, but you don't really learn how to apply them. And then
Yeah.
you have like the other levels. It's basically all one level, but there are different areas that you focus on. So if you're if you're a senior leader, then there's a certain modules that would be more applicable to you. Or if you're more like a practitioner, more in the technical part of implementation process and stuff, then there's certain modules that are more relevant to you. So I basically started. I started more in the strategic end, more senior leadership.
All right.
And then the annoying part for me at that time was that to achieve the master when they launched it, you only needed like five or six. And then they launched the final practitioner part a few years later that you had to complete. So the journey became longer than I had originally anticipated. But I just focused at one at a time, learning, and I actually enjoyed the journey. That's what it's about. Like you could technically
Exactly.
cram and try to pass as many as you can, but that's not. If you want to get value out of it, it's better to actually try to treat it like a journey rather than just looking at what you want to achieve.
Exactly, exactly. You should have the enjoyment when you're, doing something, and there should be passion related to that. So these are the two
Yes,
things,
exactly.
even I personally feel that, adds a lot of value when you, keep on trying new things. That's that's completely, a noted point, Paul. So now, Paul,
Yeah.
so Paul, like, like, how has it been? Like, like what's your experience been like, of, handling different global support functions and, different scaled operations? Like, can you just give me an insight on that?
Sure, very, very broad. So I guess I can choose what I want to share there. No, I guess one of the most interesting part it would be the different cultures. Like that. I had like Scandinavians, people from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and then I've also later had people from China, UK, US, and even before I joined IT, I even had people like from France and from Italy. So like just having the challenge of dealing with different cultures, and you learn so much from it. And little did I know it would really prepare me for the post-pandemic era when people work remotely, because then you kind of have the skills of handling different cultures
Yeah.
that usually you wouldn't be prepared at this scale.
Exactly, exactly. Now, you're handling different people from different cultures. So, was there any situation where all the teams got together and they had some kind of a language issue, or did you act as a mediator, with respect to handling such discrepancies?
That's a very good question. I Obviously the people I forgot to mention are like I manage also people from the Philippines because I was based there for 15 years, so I forgot
Right.
about that. But no, definitely there are some culture crashes, not really language barriers, but more culture crashes in the sense of what is considered acceptable in one culture and what is not. For example, Western, or you could say like European, North European culture, it's a bit more straightforward, and it's more common to challenge authority and to be a lot more straightforward. While in the Philippine culture, respect is it's very high on the, how would you say this, on the agenda, and it's
Okay.
expected that you're a lot more diplomatic in the way you approach even your colleagues if you have
Mhm.
issues, or especially how you approach your boss or your boss's boss. So that's the things that you had to learn how to manage. But luckily, since I grew up in a mixed cultural fit with my parents being one side Asian, the other one Norwegian, I was in a good
Wow.
good position to understand both sides also.
I think that just took you, a couple of minutes to get things right, right?
No, no, not really, not really. But I had a better starting point than other people. But no, there was a lot of challenges, and it's not just culture, right? You also have personalities and all of these things. So and I'm still learning. You'll never get the finish with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a brilliant point. Just been pitched by you, Paul. Now, Paul, when it came to the time zones, was there a challenge there as well, or was it flexible enough? Like, did you cover it up like once in a week, or let's say 2 days in a week? Like, how did you manage that about?
Well, in right now, we basically set schedules so everyone can join. So right now, luckily, I only have like people in Europe, you can say, but still a bit different time zone, but it's very close. And then we have Malaysia. So it's like right now it's 6 hours difference instead of seven, right, with the daylight saving time. So
Daylight
it's
savings, yeah.
easier. But basically,
Yeah.
so we schedule like our meetings, our department meetings, in the morning, so everyone gets to join. But of course, if you would have, like when I used to work with people from the US and I was based in Asia, then I ended up kind of being the one that took meetings at 10 in the evening. So it's I would rather actually adjust myself than expecting everyone else to do. That's kind of just the way I am, and I guess somewhat influenced from my Asian side, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. That culture
Yeah.
speaks, and of course, yeah. I mean, we have that. Even I'm Asian. Again, the
Yeah,
Indian and Filipino. We clone on a lot of things, I would say, and
I also think so. Yeah,
and this is something
absolutely.
I totally relate to. Yeah. So now, Paul, now when it comes to this one, like Paul, can you just give me an insight with respect to the IT service delivery and what exactly prompted you towards public speaking? I know these two things are a separate genre, but how did you cover about all these things?
Well, one is that uh, we have to kind of rewind a bit. Is that for almost 5 months ago, I started posting on LinkedIn. Sharing things about my journey and my observation, my insight, basically, which got received well. And then that led to me being more interested in personal branding, which is another topic, right? On elevating your own image and getting your name out there. It gives you a lot of opportunities. And one of these things, opportunities, is public speaking at events. And I've always actually, in my work, presented a lot because I manage. Right? I've been a manager for a long time, so just that presenting internally in your company or within your team, it's become very natural to me. So I think public speaking was the next step of outside my comfort zone. So it's always about pushing boundaries, because if you stay in your comfort zone, you'll stop learning, and that's how you actually become obsolete. So
Absolutely.
I always step
Yeah.
outside my comfort zone. Same thing with the ITIL journey. It was really overwhelming thinking about it, but I decided I'll just do it, and then let's see what happens.
Wow. So you just went with the flow. And how was your experience? First, did you feel nervous, or were you like, no, no, I'll just, pick it up? Like, what was the actual, you know, uh, situation going on about there?
Well, honestly, I am nervous before, like when I sit, when I'm taking the exams right before, I feel really nervous. But that's just kind of like natural. But in terms of like the journey, I don't really feel nervous, because the worst thing that can happen is that I fail. And what does that really do? It doesn't do anything. You still learned something from your studies. You could always
Yeah,
take it again. So it's like, I guess as you get older, you kind of learn that it's okay to fail. Like, if you don't try, you have 0% chance. If you try, then I mean, even if it's 1% or if it's 99%, you have a chance of achieving something. So that's kind
exactly.
of what I do. And of course, what drives me, honestly, is also my family, right? I want to provide a really good life for my family. And so I do whatever I can to, whatever ideas I have that can give me opportunities, I pursue it.
That's brilliant, Paul. That's amazing to know. Now, Paul, now now let's just I mean rewind a bit back. So Paul, like, I mean, so can you just tell me about this? Like, how did you start your journey in the service delivery space, and why did you choose Norway, the Nordic region, as your workstation for life, or let's say workspace for life?
Right. Good question. So Uh, I was originally working as an auditor for travel expense. Funnily enough, in IBM, which is like historically obviously known for like computers and IT, right? But I was actually like in, you could say, finance then, because the my first degree was within that area. And then I was still happy there. And then there was an opportunity. I was based in the Philippines. There was an opportunity to come in as a team leader, managing a service desk that was going to be transitioned from Scandinavia over to the Philippines.
Okay.
Um, so I was thinking, "Oh, that's exciting. That's an amazing opportunity." And because they promised they're going to grow and there's going to be all that stuff, and I left IBM, and it felt like really strange, but it was very exciting. And then, yeah, and I loved it, and my career grew. I got a lot of opportunities. I sacrificed a lot, obviously, as well during those years. And then in terms of Norway, is because I grew up in Norway, and my father my father is Norwegian, and my mother is from the Philippines. So that's kind of how I was in the Philippines. In a sense, I have roots from there, even though I spent pretty much my entire childhood in Norway.
That's brilliant. So, if I would just like to, ask you this, like coming, like, why only did you choose the IT service delivery space and not, more into the coding side, or let's say, the management side, or let's say, with respect to the cloud side? Like, why only the IT delivery space? Like, I find it really
Yeah.
interesting to, know this.
Yeah. Specifically, where I am is IT service management. It's because, firstly, I fell into it right with my opportunity managing a service desk, or several service desks eventually. Um, so that's how it started. And I'm not naturally a very technical person, because as I mentioned, I came from another industry even, but I'm more into leadership. And you will not face more leadership challenges than in IT service management, because you're the people who support. You're like both the front line, you're also the back end, ensuring something doesn't go wrong. If something goes wrong, you would get blamed. If you're proactive and ensure nothing goes wrong, not nothing but little goes wrong, you don't get much credit at all. So in that sense, it's very challenging, but that's also where the interest is. I don't want something easy. I want something that
Something
challenges me.
challenging.
Yes. And there, I
Oh,
can guarantee people, if you haven't worked in IT service management, it will challenge you on every level. If you think technical, if you think emotionally, everything, it will challenge you.
so, but still you're able to, live up and, come up to this position. That's pretty inspirational, Paul. And, you're doing a great job in what you're doing. So I think our
Thank you. I
listeners
appreciate
would
that.
definitely find it really inspiring, and probably they'll take a lot of, cues from you. Post this podcast session, I would say for sure.
I can mention one thing in terms of like if you think career growth, even if it's not necessarily just leadership, but any growth in IT or IT service management.
Hmm.
It's the most overlooked thing in the world, in the technical world. It's the people aspect. You
Yeah,
need to work on your people skills. Some people have it naturally, some don't. And if you don't, you have to work on it. It's not something you can just think, oh, I'm just going to be really good at coding, or because if you're not, if you don't work well with other people, you're going to make your career suffer for it. So
absolutely. And
people,
they'll be accountable for it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if I would just like to ask you this question, Paul, like, how is the situation? How's the, service delivery, thing, or let's say the service delivery opportunities with, how about the service delivery opportunities in the region of Nordics and Norway, Sweden, and Finland? Like, is it like in a good stride, or, it's still, coming on a, let's say, a picking up note?
That's a good question. It somewhat kind of, I guess, depends on the area, and it depends on like your skill set. I think right now, if you're starting out and you're straight from school, it's not
Okay.
very easy to get into the jobs you want. Um, but if you're experienced, it's a very strong job market. So if you're like IT engineer within Azure or Microsoft Office 365, basically any of the most popular technologies, and you have several years of experience, you could write your own ticket as of now.
Okay.
But I know like in the UK already, in the US, it's a very it's a struggle in the job market right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that sense, I guess it's pretty healthy in Scandinavia for the moment, but you don't know what's going to happen.
I know. Probably, I have a quote for this, Paul. It could say the survival of the fittest in the Nordic
Mhm.
region.
Well, yeah, in one sense, but it's also like what you could say. It's a region that people aren't fiercely competitive by
Oh,
nature. Like people are a lot
okay.
more like collaborative and like solutions oriented to finding a solution. So that's the strength. Uh, but in terms of like pure competition, in terms of the mentality, no. Then Asian is a lot more competition focused than
Oh, totally.
Norwegians. Yeah, but
Totally.
with that said, Norwegians are also they're extremely competitive in the sense that the skill level is very high here. So
Brilliant.
in that sense, they're very competitive. But in terms of like mentality, no. Like people here, they generally uh, they will want to find something they enjoy, and then they get paid decently. As long as they're okay with their salary. That's for most people the most important thing. They don't need. There's few people who wants to be CEO.
Oh, probably they just want to enjoy, what they're doing and not have any tension. That's a good approach. It's a right approach, if you would ask me. More
Mm.
than the
And
approach that we folks follow.
absolutely, but you could also say the benefit of people here is that the salary gap between entry level and a higher level. It's not huge, so
Okay.
you could still have a good life on whatever job you choose. While in Asia, if in like the salary level from where I started out compared to where I ended, it was like night and
Yeah.
day. So it gives you like incentive to push yourself. While in Scandinavia, it's like for it to be worth it, you have to like actually be interested in doing that job. You're not pursuing promotions for the money
Yeah.
in the same way. But in Asia, it's one, it's culture, but two, it's also because of the job market, right, and how the salary levels are.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's how it is. Every country has its own policies, and yeah, it's how it is. Yeah. So now, Paul, now like how excited are you about your public speaking stint that you're going to have at an event happening at an event that's called the ITSMF UK 2025 that's around the corner in the near future. So Paul, can you familiarize me and our listeners more about what exactly this event is, and we want to know more about it.
Sure. Well, firstly, I'm very excited. It's a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to not just speaking, but I'll get to watch so many people speak on 2 full days. Um, from other people from IT service management, you have authors, you have various experts, and also practitioners. Not all that are there. There's not all directors and CEOs. I mean, you have all types of people, but with their specific set of knowledge. And the ITSMF UK is, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually it's like the oldest organization for IT service management in UK. You could even call it like the original one. And the conference has a long history, and it's been growing. So I think this year they're expecting between 400 and 500 attendees. And what makes this difference from other even larger tech events is that other larger tech events, they tend to be vendor focused. You have
Yeah.
like ServiceNow showing off their tool and their latest whatever add-ons, and you have like these huge events, which is also exciting in its own right. But the difference between those type of events and this event is that this is really for people who are passionate about IT service management. So it's a lot more like what you call it, almost like more like a peer-to-peer feel rather than someone trying to sell you something.
Yeah, I got the point. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. So, Paul, on that note, is there going to be any, IT service delivery event that's going to happen anytime in Australia, like in Down Under, in APAC region or anywhere like that?
Wow. Definitely there are, but I wouldn't actually know on the top of my head. It's because I've been focusing within my own region. But of course there are. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So I couldn't tell you, but definitely yearly
It's in the
there
pipeline.
are events. Yes.
So probably you would
And
just
uh,
say
and and by the
you
way,
wouldn't watch. Yeah.
yeah. And by the way, for the ITSMF UK, it's still happening in November. So I'm hoping if
Oh,
anyone is listening who's actually interested in joining, you have the chance. Like I still think there's like an early bird rate. So for people
okay.
who wants to join, it's just I think it's like one hour outside of London.
Okay. That's pretty good. So I think there's a lot of time for you to, prep for yourself and, a lot of things. Probably you will just get the best out of it. And I'm pretty sure, Paul, like whatever you'll do, you'll just do great with respect to the public speaking event.
Well, I hope so, but we'll have to see. It's a different ball game with when you have so many talented and basically a lot of experts also watching you. But at the same time, that's what makes it exciting.
So is it really possible for you to say like what is the concept or let's say the topic that you're going to talk about, or is it under wraps at the moment?
You mean for me to share? What
Yeah.
I can share is that soon they will publish it, but it's basically about service request management.
Okay.
That's my topic, and basically, when for you to be a speaker at an event, you have to pitch a topic, and then they will decide if they select you as a
Oh,
speaker and your topic.
oh my God, that's pretty interesting. And at the same time, it's pretty challenging because it's like almost like an impromptu kind of thing. And you need to switch. Okay, like, okay, this is the topic, and I need to come up with my own set of words for that. I mean, that's
Exactly. And then I actually did this. I'm not sure. I think in beginning of January, and I didn't really expect to be selected at that time because obviously
all
there's a
right.
lot of people who are submitting these pitches. Um, and then I honestly also, because if you make a proposal and then you don't get selected, you get 50% off the participation. So I was thinking that, well, if I don't get selected, at least I get to save my company 50% of the conference fee, and then but I got selected, so it worked out good.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, Paul, I mean, this is one thing I'm pretty curious to ask you. Like, how are you able to link, the IT service management with that of storytelling, and what is the key ingredient that you're, taking in this aspect to, to bring, or let's say highlight such a creative thing onto the forefront?
Yeah. What I could say is that IT service management, especially from the outside, it's quite dry and it seems boring to a lot of people. Even people who work in IT service management, they might find like lectures and stuff pretty boring. Like when you see things on LinkedIn, like, like it's more like a lecture thing, like I had enough of that in university. People have this mindset. So I started experimenting more with storytelling, and people resonated a lot more. And it's also a way for people who don't know IT service management to learn. Because so what I do, I use a lot of analogies. I use a lot of humor in my storytelling, to get people to laugh, because again, it's a very tough area to work. So
All
being
right.
able to laugh at yourself, laugh at the pain points that we experience, but also it also helps raising focus on it without being negative, without being always being critical. So so that's one way. And then another way is that I don't just do humor. I also do very serious type theme posts that I think, like right now, my latest post was about why a lot of people are like leaving IT service management, and why that is. Because I think it's important also to raise this, because so we can do something about it. And that really, a lot of people resonated with that, because it, as I mentioned, is very challenging. It's also rewarding, but at times it can be very tough. So I basically mixed, to summarize, I mix storytelling, analogies, humor, but also serious topics. And it's important not to just do one. Like you have a wide range of
Exactly. Yeah.
emotions, right, that you go through.
Truly, truly, that's pretty much. But when did you get this idea, Paul? Like, okay, I mean, I'm finding this situation pretty dry. This domain is pretty dry, so I need to try this. Like, when did that, when did that, that bulb lighting moment come over?
That's a really good question. So what I did when I started out posting, which was December of last year, so less than 5 months from now, um, was that I was looking for people to look up to, not specifically just what they know, but more on how they post, right? How did they build their personal brand? But what I noticed though in IT service management was that there's so many experts, uh, authors, and known speakers at events, like keynote speakers within IT service management. But I was thinking, but they don't get a lot of, most of them, they don't get like a lot of, how would you say this, engagement on their posts. So I was thinking, why is that? So I started analyzing, and then I
Oh,
saw, that it's more okay, because it kind of feels more like you're lecturing me, even though it's really good information, really great stuff, but it's like maybe it can be packaged in a different way rather than doing it that
right.
way. And then I
Yeah.
started, thinking, experiment, and at the same time, by coincidence, I was challenged by someone to make, someone made a very humorous post, and I was challenged to make a humorous post about something not exactly the same, but within ITSM. So I made the post, and it exploded, went viral, that post. And after that, I started thinking, okay, but what if I can combine this humor, because that was purely humorous, but on the pain points. No, there was no learning from that. It was more on like, let's make fun of ourselves type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, since this people love this, what if I combine the humor, the storytelling, but with a lesson?
All
Either
right.
with a lesson or with a question on, okay, how can we fix this, or what do you guys think? you know and that's really resonated with people. So I've just been learning and doing that, and it's been, yeah, things are going really well, and it's going, I would say, better and better every month. So that's a really good question, but that's actually how I ended up coming up with that idea.
That's pretty interesting, Paul. So, Paul, like when it comes to these humorous, humorous posts, or let's say humorous pitches, do you use these kind of situation? I mean, these kind of things in situations where your team is having a bad day, let's say an escalation kind of thing going on, let's say the project delivery has been missed out. So, does these things fall apart in situations like these?
Well, one is that I pretty much just started doing this just 2 months ago, so I can't say that I've been doing this throughout my whole career. But what I try to do, like when we have meetings at least and stuff, I do icebreakers. So like we
Okay.
could have like some trivia, we can have like something to make us laugh and also learn from each other. So absolutely, I try to use it, but I can be better at using it at my actual job and not just out in on LinkedIn.
All right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's really good. And when you have a humor kind of a thing, it makes things lighthearted and everyone is happy with it. And the more happy you are, the more you feel like, enjoying your work and you'll just enjoy your work time. So this is what I feel. This is
Oh,
my philosophy.
absolutely. But there are a lot of laughs though. Wherever I've worked, there's a lot of laughing, there's a lot of joking, and the more you joke, because you joke, the more the closer you get.
Exactly.
So there definitely is a lot of that going on, regardless if it's me storytelling or if it's just us making fun of each other for for various reasons. We try to keep it light, and we try to really really appreciate thing. One thing I think I'm pretty good at throughout my whole career is actually showing and telling people that I really appreciate what they do. So yeah.
Indeed. So where was that instance, like, when you were just trying to in a customer meeting, let's say, where you just gave a post and your client was really like overjoyed and impressed by that. Like, when was that? I mean, what was that post about?
You mean that if there was a customer meeting where when I had they had seen my post, that
Exactly. Not
that
not
had
the post exactly. During a sales pitch. I'm not a sales pitch exactly. During a meeting, or let's say, during a presentation time, probably, on that instance.
well, honestly I can't think of something very specific right now that on the top of my head. Um, but I definitely I get a lot of DMs about people who said you brighten my day, like
Oh,
or this was a great point. Like I have a lot of those coming in. So in the
awesome.
sense that it almost feels better that happens with strangers, because I have direct impact on how I can influence people who I manage, because that's within my direct reach, and I don't necessarily need to use those type of things to get positive results. But for me, spreading some sunshine in someone's day, or even just making someone feel heard for more of my series posts, to make someone feel that it's okay to feel that way, because I also feel that way at times,
Yeah, yeah.
these things. So basically being able to influence people in a positive way, um, that gives a lot of joy to me, and I've been able to help a lot of people even through free guidance that I've been giving. Last month I did 3 group sessions and I think 7 or 8 one-on-ones, to anything from ITIL specific to a challenge they're having at work, and some are also have guidance on career,
All right.
like how, what steps should I take to improve my chances. Some for example, those I've had one-on-ones with from India, they're really really worried about AI. So they're basically asking me, what roles will be impacted, should I be worried for
Okay.
my role, how can I avoid losing my job, and like not, when these things come in. So those are the type of things that I've enjoyed doing.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's amazing to know, Paul. So, Paul, before we conclude our podcast segment, so Paul, we'll take a pretty lighter route. So, in this scenario, we were just talking about all the technical aspects. We were talking about IT, service delivery management, and your tenure. So now we'll have a pretty light, rapid fire kind of thing, like all your personal
Sure.
interests, your personal likings. So, Paul, if I would just like to ask you, like, which is your favorite Norwegian football team, Norwegian football club for that matter?
Oh, Viking.
Viking. Any specific reason based on that?
Well, I played for them when I on youth level, and they're also the big
Oh,
they're the big local, like the where I'm from, where I grew up. They're like the only top level team, like at the highest division.
okay. That's interesting. I mean, like this is a new point. When I'm gonna post this online, probably I'm gonna mention of this point as well. That you have
Sure.
even the football connection within you, and I'm a huge football fan myself, and I just like knowing. So, if you would
And
like
and
to,
and, and
yeah.
I have one funny thing since you asked about that. Luckily, as Segal, my company, they are one of the sponsors of this club, and it's by coincidence I work for Segal, and
Oh,
They're one of the
wow.
sponsors. So Cegal has like a VIP box at the stadium, and then luckily I was able to get 2 slots for this Sunday. So I'm bringing my son to his first football game, and then we'll get
Oh,
to
wow.
sit in a box and eat food before the game, and then watch the game. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Paul. So, Paul, if I would like to, ask you, like, who is your favorite Viking footballer of all time? Like, who would it be?
I'm thinking, wow, that's a difficult question. I think a guy named Egil Østenstad. He was a striker, and he also played in the Premier League in
Okay.
England. And I'm a huge Premier League fan, even though I also follow local. But I'm a huge fan of the English Premier League.
So, which team in Premier League do you support?
I'm a die-hard Arsenal supporter.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that. I mean, I don't like one team, and I'm not going to mention that. I, I, I'm a Manchester United fan, so I'm a huge
All right.
Manchester United fan myself.
Okay. Yeah. My older brother is a Man United fan. Yeah.
Wow,
So it's not Solskjaer. He's not my all-time favorite Norwegian football player. He played for Man United, right? So that
yeah, he was a
that that,
legend,
that
by the
wouldn't
way.
be right.
I get the point. I get the point. So now, if I would just like to ask you, like, if I come over, or if I come all the way to Stavanger, what is the place that you would recommend me to visit?
Well, firstly, there's so many fjords in the vicinity. Like you can go on like these tours, and it's things that you only see on postcards. And then you have we have something called Prekestolen, which is a very high point. You have to go hiking. If you Google it, you'll see
All
like the
right.
crazy view and stuff. That's another one. So those are the things. Um, I don't love everything about Norway, but when it comes to the nature here,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it's very hard to beat that type of scenery we have here.
That's undeniable for sure. Because I myself have visited Norway, and I was literally like, in love with the nature. Especially I was traveling from Oslo to Flom, and that scenic that I just, saw by train. Oh my God, that just blew my mind. It was so much awesome.
Oh wow! So you went to Flom because I just my previous colleague in the Philippines who's originally from India, he just messaged me now that he's on his way back to he lives in the Philippines, to the Philippines, and he was just in Flom. So I'm not sure like why Flom, is that like very known in India or something or
It is getting known at the moment. Our people are getting to know. Okay, there's one place called Flom, and it started.
all
And
right.
I mean, I was blown, especially by that scenic. I'm like, wow, because I went to Norway like exactly 3 years back,
Hmm.
2022, if I'm correct with my year understanding.
Right, right. Okay, that's good. That's good to know because it's just coincidence. You said it now, and then that's where he has been. So I was thinking like there must be a thing. Maybe if I Google top places in Norway, maybe that's one of the places that come up. Because when you're from somewhere, you're not really into that stuff because it's not special to you. Because you're from there. So that's maybe why
Exactly.
I'm not super familiar on what the most popular tourist areas, but I know where the amazing places are, but I wouldn't necessarily know where people usually go.
Exactly, exactly. That's there because it's picking up, and slowly Flom would become like the place in the world because it has that beautiful scenics, and I would definitely recommend that for my listeners for sure.
That's good. That's good. I
Yeah,
probably also should pay another visit there.
definitely you should. You should. So, Paul, I've even heard that you have actually traveled to India once, and like when you traveled to India, what was that particular dish that impressed you the most?
Oh no, I haven't been to India. I was supposed to travel to India because
Okay,
I studied at a university remotely that's based in the northern India.
okay.
I'm not sure how you say Guwahati. Is that correct? How
Guwahati. We
you
call it as Guwahati.
Guwahati. But I was supposed to do my convocation there when I took my master's degree, and I was so
Okay.
excited. I was already planning renting a Royal Enfield because I love riding motorcycles. So a Royal Enfield and like tour as much as I could. And then the pandemic happened, so I ended up just doing a remote convocation. So unfortunately, I
Sad.
haven't had the pleasure yet on visiting India, but I will for sure visit at some point.
You should. And what is the Indian food that you like trying, in Norway, like whenever you get a chance?
Wow. Uh, so I guess it's more typical to if I'm not mistaken, the southern type of food, more the tomato based um,
Okay.
sauces and stuff. But anything from the typical like curry, masala. Uh, it's hard to name the dishes on top of my head, but I tried so many, and then all the different breads that you have that you dip in
Yeah.
all these different sauces, the best thing ever. I would,
Oh, wow.
if I lived in India, I would be severely obese because the food is delicious and I love rice.
Oh,
And
wow.
when you eat spicy food, you have to mix it with a lot of rice because to help with the spice, and then you end up actually eating more than you should. So I don't know how people there do it.
Indeed.
Maybe because if you're born there, you learn to manage. But I absolutely love Indian food. When I was in
Oh,
Singapore too, the first thing I do was go to Little India
oh,
in
that's an
Singapore.
awesome place. That's amazing. That just gives you a feeling that, you're in India for sure.
Oh, it does. One thing I love, and I had so I have a colleague who was married to well, she's from Malaysia but with Indian roots, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he keeps bringing these lunch boxes still that are made out of metal, and
Yes,
like
yes.
metal, right? And I'm thinking to myself like that's like, because we don't, like, in the Philippines we don't use that, and that's what reminded me of Little India. It's like when you also got served in this, everything was made out of, I don't know if you call it metal or steel, or but it's like so for me, who's from the outside, it's very charming, and it's like it feels authentic.
Exactly, absolutely. And yeah, when I was in school, so I used to even carry some metal boxes. Probably my mom used to prepare food. And yes, that keeps on running in our culture for sure. So yeah, so the final question to you, Paul, like what is what was the last film that you have watched on OTT, or let's say in the movie theater?
Last movie. uh I'm wondering if that was, I think the last it was with the Red Hulk. But
Okay.
I don't remember the title of the movie. If it was Avengers, it wasn't Avengers, or like Captain America, I think. But it was the latest one with Harrison Ford plays the Red Hulk.
Yes, yes. That's Captain America
Yeah.
movie. Yes, yes, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the last movie I watched in the cinema.
Okay, that's pretty good. So, Paul, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of my podcast initiative. Today's episode was really really amazing, and this is the first time where TechOSpace podcast actually covered the world of IT service delivery, and that's a very first for me. And really really, and again, I mean, conversing with a person from Norway, that was another first. So coincidentally, two things, but having said that, Paul, I just got connected and resonated with a lot of key insights where you were just talking about how you're able to link the IT service management with that of storytelling, which was really interesting. And then when you're talking about your journey, like how did you, land up in the IT service delivery and the certifications that you have done. When it comes to certifications, I'm pretty sure that our people who are, our listeners would completely resonate with that, because Project Scrum Master is something everyone is aware of in the IT industry, and they'll
Oh,
reach out to you, Paul, post this podcast session. I'm pretty sure on that.
oh sure. Yeah. That sounds good. I'm always open to connect with people. So that would be good.
That's amazing, Paul. So thank you again, once again. It was an absolute pleasure to collaborate with you. I mean, through this medium, and to know more about the IT service delivery from you, and that was pretty amazing and awesome. So, listeners, before we conclude our podcast initiative, so this is Akhil Navluri. So any interesting journey or any key useful insight which you would like to share through my podcast initiative to all the industry leaders out there? I'm trying to pitch this out. So you could reach out to me on my email ID, akhilnavluri at the rate akhil.navluri55 at the rate gmail.com, or you could message me on my WhatsApp number that's present on the profile page of my podcast channel, or there's a new option. You could just directly DM me on my Instagram handle, the TechOSpace Podcast, and whatever key interesting journey or key useful insight, I would get back to you as soon as possible. And who knows, it's going to be you next time, the next industry leader that I would be collaborating with. So, on this note, this is your host, Akhil Navluri, signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode with another industry leader very soon. So, till then, keep listening, stay tuned. Thank you, goodbye, and au revoir. Thank you.